said, let's I guess drop down to policing in America. You know, what are your thoughts about that? And maybe what personal experiences, if any, have you had with any type of policing or police situations?
Well, unfortunately, I've had a lot of experience with the police. Like I said, when I was younger, I made a lot of bad decisions. I was the king of bad decisions. And that led to a lot of encounters with the police for me. And most of them at that time of my life were very negative, which looking back on that now, I recognize that for the most part, I didn't give them an opportunity to be anything but negative because I went into it with a bad attitude. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, which led to the encounters to begin with, and then I carried a bad attitude into the encounter, and therefore I got a bad result out of the encounter. Probably the worst one was when I was living in Huntsville. There was a situation where the police came and knocked on my door, and I was, young and prideful and arrogant, and I just kind of let them knock for a little while because I was in the middle of eating my supper, and I didn't want them to interrupt it. So by the time I answered the door, after about 7 or 8 minutes of them beating on the door, they were a little aggravated, and they kind of busted in on me and immediately grabbed me and tried to throw me to the ground and that type of stuff. So it was almost out of like a natural reflex where I kind of spun out of it, and one of the officers fell through a glass table, and and at that point I was resisting arrest because I had knocked one of them down, and it just went bad. It went from bad to worse from that point. And long story short, I ended up spending the majority of the night with my wrists handcuffed behind my back, my ankles handcuffed together, and then another set of handcuffs holding the two together. And they carried me out of my apartment like a suitcase. So when you see and hear about the things that are going on now, the things we see on the news with police brutality and things like that, so what are your thoughts on that type of stuff?
You know, it really angers me to see some of the police brutality that I see, but I don't believe that's an overall picture of who the police department is. I think as we was talking the other day, there's going to be bad people in every group, but they're the ones that really stand out tremendously, and it's kind of sickening. I mean, it just, what stirred all this up that's going on now, it breaks my heart. And but the police department as a whole is not bad, and I guess that's what hurts me, because they do protect us a lot. It's like I saw this morning, I was leaving, I had breakfast with a friend, and we was leaving, and a policeman was beside me at a traffic light, and all I could do is roll down my window and just ask him to roll his down. And I just told him how much I appreciate him, because I believe they're getting beat up bad, but there's a lot of things that need to be done too to change some things, because what's happening is not good either,
The other issue that keeps coming up in the news is the issue of police brutality or racism among the police department and that type of thing. So what do you think about whenever you see the police? Or
had to put a lot of thought in this one too. Again, growing up as kids, I can remember at Fast Street Elementary School, if you was asked what you wanted to be when you grew up, among the top 5 answers, folks wanted to be policemen and firemen and people who did good things. I think most of the people who go into policing go in, I think there's at least two groups of people who go into policing. Those who do it because they want to do the things right to make the community safe. And then there's that element of people who are there because they like power. Uh, Police brutality, yeah. If you look at the video, some of the stuff that's going on from the police is fairly brutal. Is every policeman that way? No. Is there a culture that allows those who don't get it right to get away with it? Yes. Is that okay? No. How do you fix it? Well, I think Purdue in his commercial the other day said those who police a community need to look like that community. I think that's where the solution is. If you're throwing around terms of like defunding the police and, if you don't recognize police brutality, you are anti-police. Y'all need to quit just throwing words around. There are good people of all persuasions, of all races, of all religions that want to get it right. There is the element that does not want to get it right. You cannot call for law and order if you're not going to be a lawful person and operate with a sense of order yourself. In every profession, we try to address strengths and weaknesses. You do it in every organization you become a part of. You look at those things that you do that are great, that makes you a good organization, but you also look at those things that keep you from becoming a great organization. And I don't think anybody in 2020 can tell you that there is not police brutality.
Right. So now you are a Atlanta City police officer. That's correct.
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been doing that?
Almost 4 years now, since 2016.
2016. So 4 years. So what's that like?
It's hard, my brother. It's hard, especially in the climate it is today. Trying to protect and serve and trying to stand up for other people. Then, just the racial tension that's going on. It's difficult. A few sleepless nights, a lot of stress, and just a lot of praying throughout this time, trying to figure out how to maneuver in it all.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Man, all three different names, three different cases. Like Amal Henry, I believe that's his name. I didn't understand why it took several months to prosecute. Looking at it from just the law, any kind of use of force that is given, when it goes to using deadly force, I couldn't see from the video as to why they shot him, and I couldn't understand to why there wasn't charges before. That didn't make too much sense to me, and I'm hoping that they can shed some kind of information to make that understandable, but it doesn't make too much sense to me as far as Georgia law states. It was most definitely heartbreaking to see that incident right there, because I try not to analyze things from an emotional side, but from, okay, what's right and what's wrong, and based upon these standards and these facts. The standard is what the law holds deadly force to. The facts of the situation is what occurred from the moment to the individual pulling the triggers of those firearms. Deadly force is to be used when you're protecting yourself and/or a third party. It's not meant to defend yourself from property. So even if he was doing something inside of a house prior to the use of deadly force, it was not justified according to Georgia state law. So I couldn't understand why arrest wasn't made prior to. I don't know why so many different officials kept passing off the case for someone else to take. I couldn't understand it, and as we transition from that situation from a person who was white and a black kid, to you go to Minneapolis, I believe, George Floyd, you see several different officers, one officer in particular, with his knee on the back of a suspect's neck, and the suspect's already handcuffed. I don't know how they do it in Minneapolis, but in Georgia, once you get your suspect inside handcuffs, the force should stop because he's now detained. So I couldn't really understand that either, as to why that happened. Um, and again, you see this tension is building up, just building up, just building up, and there was another shooting as well, but I can't remember the name. I can't remember the
about
person.
the one in Atlanta.
No, it was actually another one before Atlanta. But
Uh,
you see in Atlanta, Rayshard Brooks. We see that. We see different camera angles. We see so many different things. And again, you see things like that scenario that the officer was put into. We went over that scenario inside the police academy, and we're trained to, when this situation occurs, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, based upon these sets of facts and circumstances. And that one, it was just really heartbreaking to see that justice was not, and when I say justice was not properly, or to see justice not worked out. Justice is supposed to be blind. It's not supposed to be emotions. It's supposed to be right and wrong based upon facts of the law. And to see politicians do things for political gain, that was heartbreaking. Like, how can a person is a person allowed due process? Is if an officer gets involved into a shooting and the procedure is to have multiple agencies investigate, and then to have the GBI also do a formal investigation, and the GBI takes about 90 days to complete their investigation. And to see those steps not even taken, and for a person's rights to be taken away for political gain, it was real hurtful to see. It kind of makes you bitter to keep trying to stand up for something that it seems like it's a failing system.
okay. What about the police?
Ooh.
What do you think about when you think about the police?
Oh, honestly, I get scared. And that's coming from somebody who, I don't have a record. I've been pulled over twice. Yeah, twice. And that's about the extent. No tickets, no traffic, anything, no rap sheet, anything like that. But when I still think of the police, I get scared. And I believe that's from just, again, seeing what's been going on with other Black people in the news, which is why I can't watch those videos, because I know for myself, I would just get more scared and I'd freak out even more.
So you said you've been pulled over twice. What were those experiences like?
One of them, both of them were still scary for me. I don't remember which one happened first. No, yes, I do. The first one, it was late at night. I was heading home from a show I was taking pictures at, and the light on my end had turned green. So I started going, and it was like, this is in Atlanta, in West End, Atlanta. No, I'm sorry, East Point, not West End, East Point, Atlanta. And my light had turned green. There was a car that was still coming from the other way. And as I start to cross the intersection, that car slams on its brakes, and I'm like, "What's going on? I don't understand." And then flashing lights. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what is going on?" So I pull over and ask for my license and what I was doing. And in my head, I'm like, "You almost ran the light." I can't say that though, because again, it's a rough area of Atlanta. I'm not from there. It's late. I just want to go home. I complied with him. He just let me off with the warning. It was okay, but still I was frustrated and scared and upset. The next one was close to me where I live now. And I had just barely gone just about 15 over, and there was a cop at the end of the hill. The experience was, the cop was pleasant, also let me off with the warning, but at the same time, I was still scared. Both hands were on the wheel. I was still announcing where my license was, reaching for it very slowly, because I knew that there are other people who just had routine stops, and then it ended poorly for them. So
I think we need to kind of take a step back, and obviously this is an emotional topic, and no one can ignore what we've seen literally captured on tape, on tape, I guess is ancient, but on camera, we've seen, it is what it is. Like it's despicable what we've seen with George Floyd, and the list goes on. So, but I want to take a step back and try to be a little more, I guess less emotional about this topic and think about it practically. These men and women in uniform have a very high stress job, a very high pressure, a lot at stake job. And even the best of people, I know me, when I'm in an environment that all day long is tense and if I'm working a shift that's way too long, and I take a call and I don't have backup, and I'm just putting myself in their shoes. Like, I can imagine a perfect storm of something imploding in me. So there has to be measures that we can take, and I don't know all of the protocol. I don't know the scheduling. I don't know how they've been trained. I don't know any of that. But as I look on these situations, I'm seeing people, and I'm trying to put myself in both shoes, right? I'm trying to put myself in the shoes as best as I can, the person on the ground that's being opposed and oppressed, and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the person that's wearing the badge. And when it comes to the police, I think we need to take a hard look. Somebody needs to take a hard look at the environment and that they're in, and how we can better that environment to help them do their job. I don't know that a 12, 15-hour shift, or even like an 8-hour shift, if they're doing certain things, I don't know how realistic that is without a break. I don't know how, militarizing the police, that to me, they don't need, obnoxious weapons. They don't need, of course they need, and I'm speaking from little experience, but they need something to protect, to serve and protect, but let's figure out what that is, and let's maintain, a plan and a protocol that fits under that we can. So I don't want to strip them from what they have to protect themselves and others, but I also don't think that they need something in their hand that's, that gives them too much power, because they're people too. Everybody's human. We're dealing with our humanness. So that's a hard one for me. I don't really have a great answer, but I think we do need to look at the environment that we're putting them in. I think we can help the police. The government can help the police by setting them up in a healthier environment to where they can serve and they can protect. And, some of these, taking even into account the geographic location too, like where you are. If you're in Flowery Branch, you're going to face different things than if you're in Decatur, Georgia, or, we can name the cities. Like it's different regionally as well. And I think that we can't put a across the board benchmark and apply it mass across the country. We need to be more specific to the location and the people that are there. But my heart breaks for law enforcement. They're in a very difficult spot. I have a friend that we've gotten close over the last few years. He's in law enforcement. He was military before, and then he's been serving in the Atlanta Police Department for a few years. And he's a black man, and he's at the front lines of these protests. And I can't imagine the conflicting emotions and responses that are going through his veins when he's standing there trying to hold the line and he's getting called every name under the book by both races, you know, by every, not just both. There's, by the way, it's not just white and black. There's multiple races involved here. And he feels like he doesn't belong anywhere. And so when you listen to their stories and you really sit down with it, my heart breaks for law enforcement as well.
So what do you think about when you think about the police?
Oh my goodness.
Or when you see them?
You know what? Now I get very nervous because they have the power to change your life in minutes. They have the power to change your life in minutes, either end your life or change your life in minutes. I found out the other day the police were originally formed to round up runaway slaves. That's what they originally were formed for. That's what the police was formed for. I didn't know that. Now, I don't know if that's true. You can research that as well. I see that grin on your face. I get nervous when I see the police. I don't trust them. I don't trust any of them. And the evidence is there. Like they caught this cop in Baltimore planting drugs in people's cars. And on how they caught him, the dumbass still had his dang camera on. You saw
he was doing what with drugs in people's cars?
Planting drugs in somebody's car.
Planting them?
Put them over and put it in there. And he had his body cam on and they picked it up. Because you know, normally they turn them off when they're gonna do something. They'll turn the camera was off when they do something. But we there's a long line that we know of. This thing about the black people we don't know of that were picked up, sent to jail because somebody lied. Or somebody put on death row, especially Illinois, they're the worst. And they were innocent. All because of the police. The police, there are too many white people in the police, number one. That's a problem. And you wonder why there's so many white people in the police when the pay is supposedly so bad. Well, then why are you being a policeman? And see, the people that live in these neighborhoods view them as an outside occupying force. They come in there kicking down doors and doing whatever. They don't do that on the north side of town, but they do that where we're at.
So there's been a lot of stuff going on in the media about police brutality and those type of things. So what is your experience with the police?
I've never had any physical altercations with the police. Just a little side note, my mother used to do police seminars in the Louisville and Kentucky area. And she taught me as a kid about how to handle yourself, about how to be respectful, about when a police officer pulls you over, how to make them understand or that you are not a threat and that you're going to be compliant. Now, with that said, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is if I'm in a certain neighborhood and I fit a certain demographic, many times the police appear to treat me or to already have a certain mindset, or already have a certain way of handling me if I'm in a lower social economic area as far as income, as far as opportunity. You know, it may be an area that is prevalent with drugs, prevalent with different things that our society deals with that are considered the most wholesome environments. And it appears that based on where you live many times, based on what your zip code is, based on what your background is, the police might deal with you differently. Now, I think being a black male and having sons and daughters, I can say that by the grace of God, we have not had any fatalities or situations where my children were jailed unlawfully or went through any altercation with the police, because I try to teach them the same thing my mom taught me. However, many times I do realize I'm not blind, that because of the color of your skin, many times you can be a target and you can be considered a threat. So I've been pulled over a few times, and a couple times it was a little tense, but it never escalated. It never got beyond getting a ticket or a warning, or even just not even a warning, but just, okay, sir, just, slow down. Or maybe the officer, I can remember a couple times, pulled me over and I wondered, what did I do? And a couple times they didn't really even respond that I did anything, but they just wanted to see my license and registration, that kind of stuff. So I can say that I could have been profiled and not even known it, because my mindset is I'm not looking to be profiled. I'm looking to be treated like anybody else would be treated.
Right.
So again, a lot has to do with where you live, your background, how do you handle things.
Police reform is what is needed. And I agree with you. It is extremely simple to do. But now you have a demonic answer, which is defund the police and everything else, the wrong carnal answer. But you have, on the other side, you have a deception or a refusal to see itself correctly, because the powers that be don't think that there needs to be any reform. So those in power are being deceived. They don't want to lose power, because they think reform means to lose power. No, reform means to do the right thing, but it doesn't mean lose power. Because you see, as a black man, I'm not trying to gain power over the white man. I'm just trying to make sure that we all have the same power, that we're all the same. But what the white non-Christ, righteous mind hears is, you want to take over. No, satanic mindset does want to take over, but that's not the truth. That's not who we are as humans. But what happens is that when you're fighting a non-godly power structure that refuses to bend, refuses to see its own wrong, all you have is a ungodly, power structure combating it, which is now of the Black Lives Movement. So both of them are spewing out ungodly venom and ungodly answers to the problem.